More than 38 million Christians suffer a high level of persecution and discrimination. Their homes and churches are destroyed and believers face enormous pressure. In sub-Saharan Africa, violence is rising sharply. 8 out of 10 deadliest countries for Christians are in this region. This instability allows Christians to be targeted while Islamic militants exploit the chaos and to attack with impunity. In the Middle East, Christians are being driven underground. Emigration is transforming an ancient and once numerous community into a much smaller and endangered minority. Above all, the situation in Nigeria is alarming. Since 2009, more than 50,000 Christians have been brutally massacred. I recently visited Nigeria, and where I raised the concern directly with the authorities, questioning why stronger protection is not being provided to Christian communities and why attacks on their churches continued unchecked. These stories have been ignored for far too long by international media, but the silence must end.
The UN now, President Guterres, have finally declared Biafra, and he said what? Nigeria is on the verge of collapse if nothing is being done as regards banditry. At the same time, US and the Congress are finally begin the step to finally recognize Biafra.
It's one of the reasons why before Donald Trump, the United States of American president, we're able to start taking steps on the issue that has to do with genocide in Nigeria. And remember, there was one significant American celebrity, top music icon, that was present in that process of trying to have a hand or a leg in the UN to prive them of, on the possibility of trying to wipe away Christians by radical Islamists, and that's Nicki Minaj, who was also present in that UN General Assembly where a lot of things was open through her on the issue that has to do with systematic, killing of indigenous people and of course Christians in Nigeria. Currently now, it has been estimated that over 75,000 Christians has been killed so far, according to that report. So that this kind of message took place in the presence of UN President Antonio Guterres and other well-meaning personalities and other representatives of the United Nations General Assembly were also present. The world was present where the issue of Christian killings took place. Yes, a lot of people have always linked, the presence of Nicki Minaj, and of course, the head of Department of War in the United States of America, who was also present there in the company of Rally Moore and the rest of them, who was also there. So the UN have already had a first-hand information that there is deep crisis in Nigeria, and a lot of things must have played along behind the scene that we might not be able to know that has actually triggered this breaking news that calls for celebration, and must give kudos to the Congress, U.S. congressmen, and of course, the African U.S. representative in Donald Trump government, who has taken it upon himself to look at the issue of human rights violations, and of course African policies as regards the way and manner radical Islamists destroy, disalive a lot of Christians in Nigeria. I think on that basis now, that was how the UN began to gather that momentum, gather that understanding, and know that they needed to do something. And of course, what we are hearing, that was a statement credited to the United Nations, General Secretary Antonio Guterres, where he said, everything is on hand, everything is on all hands on deck, because Nigeria has become a disaster, and the only way out is to show solidarity for the newest nation in Africa, which is Biafra. So I think the US should be able to look at that as a solution to killings in Nigeria and how to checkmate the excesses of radical Islamists in invading territories in Nigeria currently now. So we must give kudos to the United Nations Secretary General if for having taken that position after a long walk, or a long silence in that regard. And one of the reasons why United Nations was actually established was to make sure that we are always conflict resolutions, and most of anything that has to do with self-determination, UN does not see it, as a crime. But what they are actually against is the violent approach to achieve self-determination. And to a very large extent, the indigenous people of Biafra, the IPOB, has maintained that standard up to this moment, irrespective of, any reservation anybody must have about it. It was registered as a non-violent an organization seeking for independence and sovereignty of Biafra out of the entity, called Nigeria.
Okay, let's not forget that the NATO chief and the EU chief Gunter finally called. He said what? He said Donald Trump and the US government must declare Biafra. He said it, and it was so serious as regards it. But do you think that the US finally have what it takes? He said let them declare Biafra politically, that like there's no need for the army, the US military to invade Nigeria before Biafra is declared. He said let Donald Trump and the US declare Biafra politically. Do you think that the US have what it takes, or the process to declare Biafra?
Yeah, it has continued to spread because most people who does not identify with Biafra today has begun to identify with Biafra. And we saw the Ohanese youth leader calling for referendum. We don't need referendum in this regard. What we need an executive order, a political order from a superior and a powerful nation like America, and that settles it. Boss, that is it. That it settles it finally. We don't need to make noise. We know our band, and we can only extend referendum, to some states or some places that will feel okay, and whatever they would like actually to be part of, this great nation, like the Kogi and the rest of them and all those areas. But yes, they also look at the issue of Amazonia, because Amazonia was part of Biafra before this thing. I think that will bring peace and expand the Biafran territory to be able to be a very formidable and strong nation that can represent the allies of reality, the allies of leadership in the world, the allies of the black race, in that regard. So the United States of America have, what it takes in that regard. But let me just make it very clearly, I must celebrate Gontajan, the NATO chief himself, who has always been consistent. And you remember that a few days ago, there was an anniversary where this very man we are talking today participated in recognition of the Biafran government in exile under the Prime Minister, Simon Ekpa. He was there live, and we witnessed the celebration of ex-Nigeria, and that's what he's championing. And he's about to attend a conference too. Possibly is one of the guests there, where he's going to make an opening speech and talk about the need for the world, the whole world, the EU themselves, to gather and show solidarity in recognition of Biafra. But I think it has to come from the United States government first, a political order, executive order. Then in preparation to that, we can decide to extend referendum for people who are outside the Biafran territory, like the Amazonians and others, if they want to join, and other people who are also waiting, like the Benue, who are also waiting, Middle Belt, who are also waiting, who have distanced themselves completely from anything that has to do with the North. Yesterday,
don't be panicking,
no. That is not our business. Our business is that, if they feel safer or in Biafran land, so be it. But I can tell you there will be a lot of migrants from different parts of Nigeria who want to identify with this nation. I can tell you that. And America should begin to. I wish anybody that's watching this video should be able to share this video and share this idea. Because we are looking at a nation that will stand the test of time. and be strong enough to withstand the heat and pressure that is going to come from enemy neighbors. Let me use it that way. Enemy neighbors at the end of the day. So if you look at it very well from that perspective, I think it is something that the United States think tanks, diplomats, should be able to look at into. First of all, give us that very recognition. Then extend referendum. We don't need we don't need referendum to happen in Biafra land. Biafra is already, knows what, how and who are part of that reality. So we extend a referendum to other states, neighbors, and other, like maybe Ambazonia, for instance, to be able to create a more bigger space in that direction. So I celebrate Gunter Jang, Gunter Jang, the NATO man, for the continuous, lobbying for that reality. I also celebrate Ted Cruz in that regard. Rally Moore, these guys are just amazing. Like, they understand Nigeria, they understand what is happening in Nigeria, they understand just everything. When they started opening up, and they have also condemned the unfortunate appointment of
Ambassadors.
career ambassadors recently by Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He said those that were appointed are nothing but corrupt. Corruption appointing corruption, and that definitely they cannot be able to launder the image of the dead image of Nigeria outside Nigeria as ambassadors. That is a very untidy pronouncement on Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government, and we have seen the escalation of invasions by these people. So the Americans know what to do. To get the right thing and to get to the right solution.
But do you not think the Nigeria delegate the delegate that went to America to seek for the help of Nigeria, for America, the likes of Nubadu and Bianca, do you not think they were shocked that the likes of the War Department chief and the likes of some of the US Congress, like the likes of Rahman Ted Cruz, brought evidence as regards the maltreatment of the Biafrans, and at the same time the killings of Christian Nigeria? They were evidence. They didn't know that Nigeria US government have been providing or keeping proof of everything that has been happening. Do you think that they will be shocked as regards this?
But many people were not surprised. They were beginning to wonder the kind of human being Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu sent a very strong message to Reverend Matthew Kuka, before we are seeing his double playing. How help we put it? Chameleonic statement now, the hide and seek he's trying to achieve at the end of the day, saying there's no genocide in Nigeria. But this is a man who said, a Reverend Father who said that genocide is ongoing in Nigeria a few years ago, coming back to say there's no genocide in Nigeria. But unfortunately, that did not actually sink very well. These people you are seeing today, thank God, a lot of people are saying that they are trying to see if they can actually compromise the American senators or the congressmen or whatever they may call them, to see how they can manipulate, that particular public hearing on Christian genocide in Nigeria. Yes, but I don't think that actually sank well. But I think to an extent, they were able to reach a certain intelligence, understanding, agreement, but that has not actually, America has not actually departed from that vision of making sure they get to the root cause of radical Islamists and the genocide happening in Nigeria. Unfortunately, he said, no, this it cannot take place, that these people are actually compromised. We know that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a paymaster. He can compromise anything at any time. But that is what it is. Those who are up there have intelligence and they know what is actually going on. Federal government has been crying loud and saying that they are going to, throw to the public the list of those sponsoring terrorism in Nigeria. But up till now, we have not had anything. Let's keep our hands across until things begin to unfold by itself.
Okay.